Chosen one, come closer. This is your moment. You've been counted out, overlooked, and underestimated for far too long. They didn't see it, but we see it now. You are the spark they never expected, the quiet storm they can't contain. You don't need anyone's permission to carry what you already are. You don't need to fit their boxes, wear their crowns, or play their games, because you were never meant to blend in. This is your reminder. You are not here by accident. You are not here to play small. You are not here to wait your turn. You are here to shift the atmosphere just by standing in it. You are here to wake up rooms, to crack open hearts, to remind the world what real looks like. So stand up straighter. Stop apologizing for your light. Stop hiding what was always meant to be seen. Because you, yes, you, are the one we've been waiting for. And it's about time the world felt what you've been carrying all along. Welcome, looking for purpose and peace? Hit subscribe and start the journey. You have always sensed that the air shifted slightly around you, as though reality itself adjusted to make space for you, even when no one else noticed. While others assumed you blended seamlessly into the scenery, you quietly carried the pulse that kept the whole room alive. Ironically, those who claim to know what greatness looks like can rarely identify it when it sits quietly at their table or passes them in the street. Instead of arriving adorned with fanfare or loud applause, those destined to shift the course of things often emerge cloaked in solitude, hardship, quiet resilience, and unexpected storms. This is no accident. It's the way significance disguises itself. History shows us again and again that the ones who bend its trajectory often spend their early years being dismissed, doubted, or even ridiculed. They move through life under the dual gaze of something vast and watchful above, while shadows at their heels try to snuff them out. Why? Because their very presence disrupts the old rhythms. From the very beginning, they have been more than circumstance. They have been the turning point itself. Titles are unnecessary because they embody what titles only try to describe. Recognition does not have to find them. It waits for the right moment to catch up. And when it finally does, the world stirs in response. Step beyond the screen. Join and help light the way for others. Meanwhile, the same people who once deemed them ordinary murmur behind closed doors, wondering if perhaps they were wrong. As the curtain lifts, everything that has been hidden begins to gleam in plain sight, revealing what others missed, what they feared, and what was always quietly certain. This was never just another figure in the crowd, but the very blueprint all along. And if discontent simmers now, it's nothing compared to what's coming. Many sit around, searching for a revelation in the sky, a blazing spectacle, a voice loud enough to shake the ground. But the answer has already been walking among them all this time. No spectacle, no costume, just quiet, steady presence carrying more weight than they can yet comprehend. They look for symbols and fail to recognize substance. They expect a beacon and overlook the one already carrying the spark they crave. Not here to impress or to soothe them, but to unseat them, to bring what their hearts have been aching for, even as their minds reject it. Some carry a quiet force that unsettles illusions wherever it goes. Without uttering a word, they cause others' well-rehearsed facades to crack, leaving discomfort in their wake. It isn't just a presence, it's an unspoken mirror. No explanation is needed, no grand entrance. Simply being there shifts everything. A subtle recalibration that can't be denied once it begins. If your heart overflows with divine love, now is the moment to let it shine. Click the super thank you button on YouTube and give $50 or more to help carry God's light to others. Your gift will bless not only your life, but countless others. You are part of His sacred plan. Your kindness may be the answer to someone's prayer. Share your blessings and honor His kingdom. May His grace guide you always. The reaction is predictable: confusion, resistance, even denial. Not because harm is done, but because the stillness reveals what others try so hard to bury. The calm draws hidden truths to the surface. Patterns unravel, pretenses falter, and those who once dismissed that quiet figure begin piecing together the strange clarity that follows them everywhere. There's a moment when the realization dawns. All those strange feelings, the uneasy glances, the inexplicable tension, the sudden introspection, all traced back to that one person who never demanded notice. Not a spectacle, not a role model, not a fad, but the living embodiment of what they claimed to seek. The realization cuts deeper because it was never disguised. It was always standing there, unbothered, waiting for them to see. Even now, they wonder how such significance escaped their notice. But in truth, it never did. They simply weren't ready to face it. They have been conditioned to bow to spectacle and noise, to applaud the loudest performers and cling to those who craft perfect masks. They mistake volume for strength and charm for substance, all while overlooking the one who moves with quiet certainty. That one never panders, never flaunts, never conforms, and so they dismiss them, unable to process what doesn't fit the image they've been taught to worship. They believe power should be shiny and demanding, yet real power treads lightly, patiently, knowing its value doesn't depend on their recognition. This baffles them. They call composure weakness. They misinterpret grace as ignorance. They confuse the absence of ego with emptiness. But deep inside, they feel it. An unsettling awareness that they cannot control or outmaneuver someone who doesn't play their game. Unshaken by their noise. Untouched by their attempts to provoke. That one waits, watches, knows. And when everything else collapses, the masks, the noise, the false kings, only one figure remains steady. The same figure they once ignored now stands as the quiet anchor they all secretly relied upon. No performance, no approval seeking, just truth, enduring when everything else falls away. Carrying more than the room can bear, there are those who choose silence over spectacle, softening their edges to keep the fragile calm of others intact. They don't conceal themselves out of doubt, but because they know too well what happens when truth bursts into spaces that cling to illusions. Instead of blazing outward, they pull their glow inward, not because they lack fire, but because they know not every room is built to hold it. They swallow words before speaking, not because they're empty, but because they know the weight those words would carry. They withhold brilliance not out of fear, but because they see how easily it blinds the unprepared. They step lightly, keeping their wisdom tucked away, protecting it from eyes that would only misread it. Not weakness, calculation. And while others misread that quiet as emptiness, they've already surveyed the whole board, knowing exactly where the cracks lie. The crowd mistakes restraint for ordinariness, assuming nothing significant hides beneath the surface. But when the time comes and that quiet force stops hiding, the air thickens. The fragile egos built on applause and noise begin to crumble. And suddenly, the one they overlook becomes impossible to dismiss. Step beyond the screen. Join and help light the way for others. It unsettles those who built their confidence on shallow victories, who believed themselves untouchable because they filled the silence with their own noise. Now, confronted by a presence that needs no validation, they scramble to rewrite what they thought they understood. And beneath their laughter, beneath their whispers, is something much sharper: envy. Not the petty kind, but the kind that burns because it sees what it cannot touch. They dress their discomfort in sarcasm and feigned indifference, hoping to drown out the truth that gnaws at them. Even their mockery is a confession, proof they feel the difference, but cannot name it. They steal fragments of what they secretly admire, echoing phrases, mirroring mannerisms, repackaging insights, yet never admitting where it came from. Because to name it would be to admit they never measured up. So they keep their distance, cloaking fascination as criticism, pretending disdain while their eyes betray them. And when the quiet one finally lets the light expand, when there's no more shrinking to soothe others, the masks of the others slip. The very thing they tried to bury floods the room. They never hated the one standing there. They hated the reflection it forced them to see. And that reflection never lies, all along. It was the brilliance they feared and the truth they could not smother. There are those who walk into a room and awaken what has been dormant for generations. Without intention, they unsettle the dust buried in others' bones, stirring memories and pain they didn't even know they carried. Their presence alone cracks open what was sealed long before their time, not by force, but by being the very thing those cracks cannot contain. People shift, falter, grow uneasy, and wonder what was done to provoke it, but nothing was done. It simply is, if your heart overflows with divine love, Now is the moment to let it shine. Click the super thank you button on YouTube and give $50 or more to help carry God's light to others. Your gift will bless not only your life, but countless others. You are part of His sacred plan. Your kindness may be the answer to someone's prayer. Share your blessings and honor His kingdom. May His grace guide you always. What they carry predates all the stories people tell to keep their illusions alive. They arrive not to join the cycle, but to shatter it, to reveal what no one else dares look at. That is why, even as a child, questions rose to their lips that made adults squirm. Why their quiet observation pierced the comfort of others. They do not ignite arguments. They uncover what was already trembling beneath the surface. From the moment they arrive, a silent resistance greets them. Not personal, but ancient, as if every secret that has lived unchecked recognizes the threat. Those who laugh it off or dismiss it fail to understand. Nothing needs to be said. That quiet light disorients everything that survives in shadows. Even the strongest walls built to protect family myths, collective silence, and hidden shames begin to splinter when they walk through. And the resistance they feel is simply proof. Something long unchallenged now feels seen. Even when pushed out, even when silenced, they remain. A reminder that nothing buried ever stays buried when truth finally arrives in human form. They are not an echo of anyone who came before. They do not trace footsteps already made or mimic empty rituals just to belong. While others rush to mimic one another, clinging to the latest masks and pretending at confidence, they walk at a different rhythm, attuned to something higher. Their path is not learned from books or borrowed from crowds. It comes from within, as though carved there long before they began. And while others exhaust themselves perfecting performances and chasing fleeting approval, they build something deeper, something that cannot collapse when the lights go out. Those around them call them strange for refusing to fit the mold, for rejecting what everyone else seems to chase. But in time, the copies fade, the trends expire, and the noise quiets. And through it all, that quiet figure still stands, unshaken, not because they sought to shine, but because their roots reached where no one else thought to plant. They are not a fragment of someone else's design. They are the original pattern others have been searching for without realizing. Not the imitation, not the decoration, but the foundation itself, overlooked by those too busy chasing glitter to notice what actually holds everything up. And when the facades fall away, what remains was there all along, undeniable, unshaken, and impossible to replicate. Perception bends when filtered through fractures, and there are those whose presence exposes how broken the lenses truly are. Not because they are unclear, but because the ones watching see only through fog. A fog thickened by old grudges, swollen pride, and wounds left to rot. People never view through neutral sight. They drag all their unspoken stories into every gaze. So when someone walks in unburdened, intact, and unapologetically whole, it unsettles what they thought was settled. Innocence gets mistaken for craftiness. Calm unsettles them like an unspoken accusation. Strength without noise looks like arrogance to those who've only known strength as shouting. So when they encounter someone unwilling to conform, their reflex is to misread, to label, to project. They flinch not at harm, but at the silent insistence of truth. Every time, it's the same. Discomfort blooms in the room. Tension clings to the walls, and explanations are whispered, but none of them true. They shield themselves by judging instead of healing. It's easier to dismiss what reveals their cracks than to face the reflection. What they really want is for that presence to shrink so they can keep hiding. But it doesn't, and the more clarity steps in, the more some retreat while others lash out. To those still chained to survival, anything that refuses the chains looks alien. They call it fake, unsettling, unnatural, because to them, illusions feel safer than revelation. They do not understand what stands in front of them because it was never shaped to fit their fears. It exists beyond their rhythm, outside their patterns, immune to the cycles they're trapped in. As time passes, some begin to see pieces they once ignored, wisdom etched into quiet movements, authority carried without noise, humility sharp enough to cut through pretense. But by the time they truly see it, the moment has already moved. The one they failed to grasp has already shifted forward. Some things are not meant to linger, waiting for recognition. They are meant to awaken and move. And whether anyone speaks it aloud or not, everyone feels the shift when it arrives. No one comes here to blend seamlessly into the crowd and win applause. Recognition was never meant to wear the mask of approval. It was meant to meet those ready to witness, not those still clutching illusions. Many resent what they can't name. They feel it before they can speak it. An invisible pressure that rattles the stories they tell themselves. That presence doesn't soften itself to soothe anyone's discomfort. It simply stands, and in standing, exposes what others pretend. Without a word, it unsettles every lie rehearsed too long. The unease people project isn't dislike, it's the sting of a mirror. It never conforms because its purpose is to disturb what was never true, to scatter false peace, to remind everyone what realness feels like. Those who depend on pretending will call it too harsh, too sharp, too disruptive. But beneath that resistance, even they know, something real entered the room, and nothing will ever sit quite the same again. What unsettles them most is realizing this cannot be erased or replaced. The one they once dismissed is the one they quietly measure themselves against, even when they swear they don't. They reward imitation while punishing what refuses to be rehearsed. The ones who master the art of staying shallow, who perfect their pleasantries and never risk shaking the surface, earn the applause. The softened, polished imitations of truth get embraced. But when the unfiltered origin dares to appear, unease fills the air. Not because it's flawed, but because it can't be ignored. Truth lives in more than words. It's carried in every quiet choice, every unspoken glance, every breath. That kind of truth doesn't amuse, it unsettles. And few can stand in its presence for long without fidgeting. There's nothing convenient about what's real. It resists being reduced, being packaged into something sweet enough to sell. Authenticity becomes dangerous in a world obsessed with performance. While they practice being agreeable, others simply align with what they are. No rehearsals, no edits, only being. And that rawness becomes a threat, because it exposes how carefully others have been hiding. They praise the ones who mimic just enough to feel familiar, who dilute what they borrow and feed it back to the crowd like candy. But you remain accused for carrying it undiluted, sharp and alive. Your presence cannot be marketed, cannot be caged, and that terrifies those who live inside systems that depend on compliance. You don't follow their unwritten rules. You don't crave their approval. You arrive from a different depth, carrying a reality they can't contain. So they try to bury it. But they forget, the seed always outlasts the imitation. The replicas may dazzle for a season, but when everything crumbles, and it always does, they'll search for what remains. And that is when they'll remember what they tried to erase. The one who held the truth they were too afraid to honor. There are also those who shift entire landscapes without ever raising their voice. They don't need to compete for attention. Their quiet disrupts more than noise ever could. They enter, and without even noticing at first, the ground begins to move. People glance nervously. Fault lines appear in relationships. Unspoken truths climb to the surface. Hidden alliances splinter, all because they simply exist. While others obsess over curating images, over crafting fragile illusions, there's a presence that refuses to play along. And it shakes everything built on lies, not through force, but through the quiet demand for honesty. Without trying to tear anything down, what isn't real collapses on its own. They feel it, but don't understand it. They assign blame because they can't name it. They call it difficult, unsettling, even dangerous, not because harm was done, but because their carefully stacked cards are falling. The disruption is never loud. It builds quietly, steady and unseen, until one day the masks slip and the towers crack. Those who built on falsehoods watch in confusion as their illusions disintegrate. And there, standing among the wreckage, they finally realize nothing was destroyed by hands. The truth itself had been waiting beneath their feet all along, patient and undeniable. They will call it a threat when it is actually an invitation to something real, to something clean, to something deeper than they were ready to see. And whether they accept it or not, they can no longer pretend nothing shifted. The ground has moved, and they know now who moved it. Rejection, though it cuts deep, carries a wisdom that escapes most. They convince themselves they turn away because you don't fit their mold, because you move differently, because you won't bow to their insecurities. Yet the truth is far older and far larger than that. Rejection is written into the design of your path. It's not a reflection of lack. It's a matter of alignment, a season that protects what is still becoming. The veil stays drawn not to punish, but to preserve. You are not dismissed because you are unworthy. You are safeguarded because what you carry can't be handled by hands that haven't been cleaned. Their vision remains clouded, and that's intentional. You are concealed, not because you're not ready, but because the space you are meant for isn't ready for you. They misread what they can't comprehend, calling it unremarkable, blind to the fact that you've been hidden on purpose. Every cold shoulder, every misunderstanding, every misstep on their part was not denial. It was strategy. What you thought was loss was actually preservation. Until the stage is set, you remain tucked away, waiting for the right soil, the right audience, the right atmosphere to reveal what was always true. And then suddenly they see. The same people who turned away look back, unable to explain the glow that was there all along. What they thought they walked away from was actually the thing they couldn't keep even if they tried. And they assumed their departure weakened you. But it didn't. It cleared the way. Because what is about to rise in you was never meant to share the room with anyone who only ever saw you as small. Now they stand stunned, realizing what they overlooked was never invisible. It was simply waiting to emerge. There are also moments when you arrive in someone's life as more than just another face. You arrive as a reckoning. You carry something so rare it becomes a measure of their character, an unspoken test of what they'll do with what they've been entrusted. You are not simply to be liked, controlled, or tolerated. You are meant to be honored, protected, and nurtured. But pride clouds their judgment. Rather than protecting what they've been given, they compete with it, tear at it, mock it, as if your light is some rival to overcome. What they don't realize is that how they handle you determines what life hands them next. And when they mishandle you, when they misuse what was meant to bless them, they lose far more than just you. What you bring is not random. It is sacred. And when they treat it like nothing, they forfeit something irreplaceable. Instead of sheltering what they've been given, they become another scar you have to heal from. But you do heal. You rise anyway. Their failure doesn't mark the end of your story. It marks the beginning of theirs. And when they finally see it, the weight of regret settles heavy. They can't unsee the moment they chose pride over purpose, noise over reverence. They are left haunted by the realization that what they mishandled was never ordinary. It was the very thing meant to transform them. And long after you've grown beyond them, they'll still be left whispering to themselves about the day they lost the chance to stand beside what they couldn't even name. You move differently because your authority is embedded, not broadcast. What you carry was never earned by charm, applause, or proving yourself. It was granted. A quiet authority etched into you long before the world even took notice. This unsettles them. They cannot comprehend how someone who doesn't compete still stands firm, how someone who doesn't seek approval still advances. They've tried everything to dismantle what they don't understand: whispers, exclusion, sabotage wrapped in politeness. Yet nothing lands. Not because you're lucky, but because what covers you cannot be touched. They confuse restraint for weakness and humility for lack, all the while not realizing you're already walking with clearance. You have nothing to prove because what you carry is already affirmed elsewhere. Their strategies falter because they're wrestling something they can't even see. While they chase attention, you move with assurance. While they build arguments, you carry decisions already made. That's why nothing sticks. You operate beyond their reach, sealed by something they can't revoke. The doors that open for you don't have handles they can grab. They believe favor should roar, but yours whispers and yet reshapes everything in its path. Every attempt to discredit you only highlights what cannot be undone. They're left grappling with the reality. What they call luck is actually law, written where no one can erase it. Others have trained their eyes to find crowns and mistake titles for significance. They wait for someone draped in ceremony before they offer respect. So when you arrive quietly, without their signs of status, they dismiss what they don't recognize. They assume presence comes dressed in spectacle. But you don't come to impress, you come to activate. You aren't here to decorate their world. You are the unseen scaffolding holding it upright, the point of connection that can't be replaced. This confuses them because it dismantles everything they believe about power. While they climb and posture, you anchor. While they perform, you realign. You don't fit into their hierarchy because you weren't made for it. You exist to dissolve it entirely. Your influence cracks the surfaces they've polished for years. Layers of ego, manipulation, pretension, inherited dysfunction. You never aimed for a seat at their table because your role is to flip the table. Without raising your voice, you unravel illusions they cling to. So they scoff. They misread. They turn away until the quiet pull becomes undeniable. They start noticing that where they expected crowns, you carry keys. Not keys to a kingdom they control, but to one they can't even name. They begin to circle back, confused by how you continue to ascend without their permission.